Well, don't look now, but hurricane season starts tomorrow. And if last year is any guide, storms in general are getting more dangerous and destructive. And today, we start a new series looking at the rising risk to real estate, especially development that could sit directly in harm's way. Diana Olick reports tonight from Boston with a look at what's being done there to safeguard buildings and billions of investment dollars.
Winter slammed hard into Boston this year. Back-to-back nor'easters sent water flooding into its historic streets and seaport. It was what city planners predicted, just not yet.
In Boston, we've spent a lot of time thinking that these impacts are 20, 30 years down the road. These storms are here now. They're happening more frequently. They're more severe.
Deanna Moran studies the impact of climate change on Boston real estate, especially its new development.
And the planning has been great, but we just aren't there yet.
The planning started at the top in the mayor's office and its Climate Ready Boston initiative, headed by Austin Blackman.
If you want to build a large building in the city of Boston, not only do you have to take into account what the climate projections are and the floodplains are right now, but you have to look at what those projections are in the future.
But so far, it's just conversations and recommendations, not rules and regulations. And data show the water is rising and the storms are intensifying, just as development is booming in the city's most vulnerable district, according to experts, the Seaport. When we picture rising tides and stronger storms, we tend to think of places like Miami and the Gulf Coast. But with the exception of Alaska, New England is expected to see greater warming than any other place in the U.S. because of its higher latitude. And its proximity to the Gulf of Maine, the fastest warming body of water on Earth, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. In the past decade, nearly $8 billion worth of residential and commercial real estate has been built or approved for construction in the Seaport, its inventory of properties doubling, according to CBRE. In fact, just the Seaport has seen 3 times the amount of new buildings going up than in all the rest of Boston's much larger downtown and financial district. And the Seaport is ground zero for water. This is what the city predicts will happen in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the booming district underwater.
I think what scares me the most is the disconnect. We're relying on the historical past when we build buildings for the future.
Why are we not changing the code?
The process for changing the code is long and tedious.
And changing the code could drive away the precious influx of big business to Boston. Names like Amazon and GE investing millions in Boston real estate development and attracting thousands of new workers, especially to the Seaport.
So this is 121 Seaport, a building that, on behalf of Skanska, I'm incredibly proud of.
Skanska is one of the largest Seaport developers, recently selling 2 of its new buildings for record prices. Its latest is the centerpiece of Seaport Square.
It's shaped like an ellipse, and that shape alone is very sustainable in that the wind on this building is far less than it would have been had it been a square or rectangle.
So I'm looking out over water, 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 water everywhere. No concerns.
No concerns at all. This building is very well prepared to withstand any major storm event.
The building's electrical infrastructure is 40 feet above the 100-year floodplain. The ground floor is elevated. All of this at increased cost. While some developers are proactive, others are less so because they know the end game is to sell the building.
What we are starting to see is that developers will not necessarily qualify for financing because the insurance companies are saying, hey, we're not going to insure this unless you take into account some of those climate challenges.
Why build? Why develop the Seaport?
Right now, we've already got significant number of buildings and assets that are already in harm's way. As we look at continuing to develop it, there's actually an opportunity for those developments to be part of those protection processes.
Like GE, building its proposed $200 million headquarters in the Seaport District and elevating the ground underneath to protect against rising tides. But the planning has to go beyond individual buildings or so-called islands of resilience. What are the barriers that frustrate you most?
Not having control over the building code as a city.
There are guidelines, but everything is ultimately voluntary.
This is value right here, what you're looking at, the old in with the new.
Absolutely. I think one thing is tried and true. They want to be by the water, but they want to be in a building that is very well prepared to withstand storm events in the future.
For Nightly Business Report, I'm Diana Olick in Boston.